Hello, fellow humans. This is Andrew Tarvin, CEO of Humor That Works, and today we've got a case of the Mondays. In this video, we're going to talk about the dangers of humor, because you all know that it's not always puppy dogs and milkshakes when it comes to using humor, especially in the workplace. I'm sure we've all been there when that one bro in sales decides he wants to lighten the mood with a joke and it's just straight up racist. So a white guy, a black guy, and an Asian guy walk into a synagogue. I'm going to stop you right there, Jerry. At a high level, humor can be harmful in one of three ways. First, it can distract people from what's going on around them or keep them from focusing on the right things. Humor, when used well, actually helps you accomplish the work at hand, but used poorly, it prevents work from getting done. And that's something that happens when office pranks go wrong, like in 2013 when coworkers at Intel secretly taped a "kick me" sign to the back of one of their employees' backs as a prank. Because when you're looking for a good prank, what better place to start than on the middle school playground? Next up is telling your coworker that they've been diagnosed, sadly, with cooties. I get it. We all have coworkers we'd love to give a flying kick in the pants to, and while you can do that figuratively, you can't do that literally, because that's distracting and technically a crime. In fact, in the case of Intel, 2 employees were convicted of misdemeanor battery and fired by the company. April Fool's pranks can be such a distraction that it's led to some companies, like Microsoft, banning them in the office, leading to the HRiest of HR sentences. Data tells us these stunts have limited positive impact and can actually result in unwanted news cycles. That's how dangerous inappropriate humor is. The cliche goes from no such thing as bad press to unwanted news cycles, which to me sounds a bit like a Craigslist ad. For sale, unwanted news cycle, complete with unintended consequences, pranks gone wrong, and whoops, I probably shouldn't have tweeted that. To avoid using humor that distracts, be specific about what you're trying to achieve. But distraction isn't the only danger of humor. Humor can also divide people. Positive, inclusive humor brings people together, but insular humor creates in and out groups and accentuates power differences. Consider the case of Gerald Ratner, who in 1991 was the CEO of the UK's biggest jewelry chain. In a speech at a conference, Ratner made jokes about his own products and his customers.
We sell gifts as well as jewellery. Things like a teapot for £2. Or we've got this imitation book that you lay on your coffee table. The pages don't actually open, but they have beautiful curled up corners with imitation antique dust. I know you might say it's not in the best possible taste, but we sold 250,000 of them last year. People say to me, how can you sell this for such a low price? I say, because it's total crap. It's no point beating around the bush. Anyway,
You can tell he was really enjoying it. I mean, you can see it on his face. Look at him. He's thinking, man, I am totally nailing this right now. In fact, the audience in the room was eating it up. But this is a case of having 2 audiences. The group sitting in that room, other business owners, versus his actual customers, who did not enjoy the jokes. The next morning, the speech made national headlines like jewelry CEO calls his own products crap. The Sunday Times dubbed him Gerald Crapner instead of Ratner, which is showcasing just how funny newspaper editors can be. As The Hustle shared, within a few days of the speech, Ratner's group shares dropped by £500 million. Some say funny is money, but that's an expensive joke, and he only spoke for 25 minutes. That's £20 million per minute. That's the Suez Canal of speaking gaffes. The problem wasn't that Ratner used humor in his speech. That's typically a good thing to do, if the humor is connected to the topic and positive and inclusive. But the problem was that it was divisive humor. It created 2 groups, the haves and the have-nots, the ins and the outs. A similar divide can happen with constantly using inside jokes without explaining them to other people. For those not in on the joke, they may feel like they're not one of the team. Inside jokes say, we're cool with each other, but not with you. It's like Michael Scott from The Office.
I love inside jokes. Love to be a part of one someday.
It's funny, but also sad. It's facade. To prevent your humor from dividing, make sure it's inclusive and that you bring other people along. And the final danger of humor is that it can disparage others. And I know disparage is just a fancy way of saying insult, but insult doesn't start with D, like distract and divide. At its best, humor is a positive force for good. At its worst, it's a tool that can suppress ideas and destroy self-esteem. In 2011, 3 employees at the Iowa Civil Rights Commission were fired after their boss found gossipy emails attacking coworkers and assigning them derogatory nicknames. The employees claimed they were just joking, but the nicknames included Monster, Teen Wolf, and Homeless McGee. Sure, it's sometimes hard to tell if a person in the office is homeless or just works in the creative department, but these aren't positive nicknames. They're just insults. Positive nicknames can bring people together, like when my bowling coach gave me the nickname Silk. And I realized there's a lot to unpack in that one statement. Yes, I was on a varsity bowling team my senior year. I did have a coach, and he would call me Silk because my roll was so smooth. Silk still got it. A lot of the cases where employees are fired because of jokes are because they were offensive or disparaging to others, like the Uber board director who was dismissed after this sexist joke at an all-hands meeting. Ariana Huffington was speaking about the board, saying, there's a lot of data that shows when there's a woman on the board, it's much more likely that there will be a second woman on the board. David piped in to say, actually, what it shows is that it's much more likely to be more talking. Get it? Because of that hilarious stereotype that women talk a lot? Ooh, I don't know. Maybe though he meant it as a positive. Maybe he meant that there's more likely to be talking about how well the company is doing, considering companies with women directors on their board perform better than those without women. To avoid humor that disparages others, focus on positive affiliative humor rather than what you might see in a comedy club or use with your closest friends. Now, just because there are dangers to using humor at work, it doesn't mean that we should avoid it completely. That'd be like saying, we should never take the stairs because you could fall down them. That's ridiculous. We know we just have to be careful. We just have to take it one step at a time. There's plenty of research that shows the benefits to using humor in the workplace. But in order to get these benefits, you can't just rely on the humor you use with your friends or what you see on TV. Part of the skill of humor is knowing what's appropriate and when. If you want to learn how to effectively use humor in the workplace, you can find out more at www.humorthatworks.com. And if you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe to hear more humor tips. Until next time, I've been Andrew Tarvin. You've been whoever you are.